Hey guys, this week we're going to be talking about the top 10 weirdest guns ever built in existence.
Number 10.
The Vespa 150 Tap is a Vespa scooter modified as a cannon-loaded Vespa used for the French paratroopers in the late 1950s. The Vespa was integrated with a M20 recoil rifle and a light anti-armor cannon. Vespa licensed 500 models into 2 production runs in 1956 and 1959. This was amongst one of the wild inventions that took place in the late 1950s.
Number 9.
Bat bombs were an experimental World War II weapon developed by the United States Army. The bomb consisted of a bomb-shaped casing with over 1,000 compartments, each containing hibernating Mexican free-tailed bats with small time bomb attached to their body. The idea was that these armed bats would be dropped from the bomber over a strategic area, and the casing in which the bats were placed would deploy a parachute in mid-flight and open to release the bats, which would then roost in eaves and attics in a 20 to 40 mile radius. The explosions would start fires in strategic places of the enemy city, which would then render them weak.
Number 8.
The Duck's Foot pistol was a 4-barrel gun that was designed to take on large groups at close range. It was most popular with officers on sailing ships so they could control the crew if any mischief were to happen. But there was a drawback to this gun. The problem was that you couldn't really aim at any specific target. None of the 4-barrel guns aimed straight. So in other words, the gun was more well suited for riots than close combat. But other than that, the gun still looks pretty badass.
Number 7.
The sticky foam gun was a weapon developed by the US Army when situations of less lethal force was required. The foam gun projects a sticky foam substance that quickly dries up and expands on any surface. The foam is used to impair and entangle people that are a threat to the police, so for example situations like riots and protests.
Number 6.
The Thunder generator was developed for Israeli farmers to scare off impostering birds that would eat their crops. But now police and army forces around the world may soon have this non-lethal weapon at their hands. The device is a cannon that fires shockwaves that pass through people and objects. Although the shockwaves are harmless, they give people the impression of standing in front of a speaker. According to data, the system generates 60 to 100 bursts per minute, each traveling at about 2,000 meters per second and lasting up to 300 milliseconds. This weapon might very soon be used in large mass threats like riots or protests.
Number 5.
Its full name is Le Disson Petit Protecteur. This little revolver is so tiny that it's intended to be worn on your finger. This revolver was designed to look like a ring in disguise so that it could be used in desperate situations. It was originally sold in the late 19th century and was popular amongst gamblers and prostitutes. It came in both 5 and 6 shot models and holds the record for being the world's smallest functional production revolver.
Number 4.
The Personnel Halting and Stimulation Response Rifle, or nicknamed the Phaser, is a prototype non-lethal laser dazzler developed by the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratories and the U.S. Department of Defense. Its purpose is to temporarily disorient and blind a target with its laser beam. Blinding laser weapons have been tested in the past but were banned under the 1995 UN Protocol on blinding weapon lasers. But though the phaser rifle has a low-intensity laser that has a temporary blinding effect, it's not prohibited under this regulation. So yes, the US Army is allowed to use these guns.
Number 3.
The vomgun is a weapon designed a lot like a flashlight. The way it works is that it emits an extremely bright, rampant, and well-focused series of differential colors, random pulses that cause stimulation. Before the human eye can focus on one frequency, another frequency comes on, causing intracranial pressure, which results in clustered headaches, nausea, disorientation, visual impairment, and vomiting.
Number 2.
First used in the 16th century, keyguns allowed a jailer to keep his weapon throughout the entire extreme vulnerable process of opening a cell door, thus leaving him unprotected. This was especially useful for the fact that it could physically be operated like a normal key and at the same time be a gun. The keygun would only run on one bullet, so most of the time you only had one shot.
Number 1.
The Gustav gun was one of the most ambitious death machines of the Nazi army. It weighed in at a massive 1,344 tons, so heavy that even though it was attached to a rail cart, it still had to be dismantled before moving so that it would not destroy the twin set of tracks that it passed over. This 4-story behemoth stood at 20 feet wide and 140 feet long. Its 500-man crew, commanded by a major general, needed nearly 3 full days to set up and prepare for fighting. The Gustav had a bore diameter of 800 millimeters and used 300 pounds more than a ton of smokeless powder charged to fire its primary shells. The shells could be able to reach targets from at least 90 miles or 145 kilometers away. To this day, it still holds the record for being the largest gun cannon in the world. Thanks everybody for watching, and keep peaching on. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more videos.